Okay, so what we're going to look at doing is exporting this Flash video, bringing it into Premiere, and then start working with the audio in Premiere. So the first thing we're going to do is look at exporting the movie. So if we go to File, Export Movie, okay, now you've got a couple of different options. How are exporting file types for the video. So what we're going to go with is QuickTime and name it. Now I've done a couple of tests, so I've got a range of different file types in here. So for the purpose of this, I'm just going to call this tutorial.mov. Okay, so hit save, and you'll notice that it's going to export the video in the settings that we have already created our document. So 800 by 450 pixels. So export that, and that'll start exporting for you. Okay, now that says done, so I'm just going to minimize Flash. I saved it in this folder, so if you find it, walk cycle tutorial, just going to double click it and play the movie. That's our QuickTime movie now. Okay, so that's what we're going to bring into Premiere. So I'm going to open up Premiere, which I've done already, and you'll be faced with this window here. So we're going to create a new project and give it a name. So I'll call it Walk Tutorial. If I can spell that correctly. And I'm just going to save it into this folder. Okay, remember you want to try and keep everything in the one place. So if you need to set up a new document, hit browse and create a folder so you can save this. So I'm going to hit OK, and then we'll be faced with these default settings or presets for the video. We're going to create a custom one because we want to set it up at 800 by 450. So if I click on settings, under editing mode here, I'm going to select custom. The time base that we want to be running at is 24 frames per second because that's what we've created our animation at. The frame size, looking at both the width and height, we're going to set up at 800 by 450, again to match the document. You'll notice that changes to our 16:9 ratio. Okay, everything else is okay, so what we'll do is we'll just name that again, walk video tutorial, and select OK. So we're now in Premiere, and I'm going to import the movie that I created. So walkcycletutorial.mov, import that to my project library, and I can drag that over onto the timeline. Okay, now I'm going to just keep the existing settings as they are. So I'm quite happy with that. I'd already tested the movie. Now what I'm going to do is bring in the audio that I've sourced. So I've just grabbed a few audio clips off of the internet. I have country sounds and various birds. Okay, so I'll grab one of those, and hopefully they'll fit in with the kind of the scene that I'm trying to paint with this image. Okay, so I'm going to drag this over onto my audio 1 layer, and you can notice straight away that the amount of audio I have there is much larger than what I need. So I've got two options. What I can do is trim it down by grabbing the end, or I can use my time scrubber to go to the end here, lock my video layer, and use the razor tool to snip that audio. If I do that, I now have two separate pieces of audio that I can edit. Now it may well be that you're looking for a particular segment of your audio track, so if you are planning on cutting it, make sure that you have locked any other layers so that when you use the razor tool it's only going to affect the audio layer that you're on. Okay, but that will allow you to be able to move them about, and I'm just going to go with this for just now, so I don't need this, I'm just going to discard it and hit delete. Okay, we can hear the audio starting to come through on that, so if I play it, okay, and that just lands the length of my animation. If I expand this, you'll notice I have this yellow line and also a waveform for the audio. This can be dragged up or down to increase or decrease the overall volume measured in decibels. If I select this and go up to my effects control, you see that I have it here. I also have my audio effects, and these are just default effects that I put on, for example, your volume and the panner for being able to change the balance, whether you want the audio to come more out of the left hand side or at the right hand side. You can click on these to put in a value. I'm just going to keep it centered. So say for example, if I was looking to increase the volume, you'll notice that when I change that balance, what's happened is it's generated a keyframe, so I'm just going to have to delete that. So I've selected it, so I'm now going to delete it. If, for example, I wanted the audio to fade in, I need to create a start point for the keyframe. So at this point, if I create a keyframe, and then move to the point where I want the audio to fade in, create another keyframe, I'm going to go back to this initial keyframe and then change the value of that. Now I'll expand this level here so you can see it in the form of a line. If I start pulling the volume down, okay, you'll notice this gradient here, okay, and what that's going to do is fade the music in up until this keyframe when it returns to the natural volume or the initial state that it was at. So still get this keyframe selected. I'm going to drag it right down to make sure that it's completely silent and then fades in. If I play the animation from the beginning, it's very quick. So what I'm going to do is just grab this keyframe and move it to increase the overall gradient and fade in of the volume. You hear that starting to get louder now. Okay, and these keyframes can be put in at any point and also moved and edited. Now they don't necessarily just apply to the volume levels. You can add a series of audio effects onto those. If I go down here to the bottom, to my effects panel here, I have a series of audio effects which I can add on just by clicking on them. I'll go to EQ, so if I just double click that, you'll notice EQ has now popped up. Okay, and I could do the same thing by adding keyframes in on this layer to affect the overall audio. Okay, now you may have a couple of different sound effects that you're planning to put into your animation, in which case you'll be able to zoom in on the video. We can change the view to show all the frames. Now I'll try and zoom in. This should be zooming in for me here. There we go. If I drag that along, you see all the individual frames, so you've got a better idea of perhaps if you wanted a particular sound effect to appear at this point on your audio track 2, it would just be a case of importing that sound, dragging it over to your audio 2 track and moving it, trimming it or cutting it however you want and putting it in place. So once you're happy with all of that, we're now looking to try and export the movie itself. So if I go to File, Export, Media, okay, now we're wanting it to match the sequence settings. Okay, at the moment we have it set up at QuickTime and the preset is coming out at should be H.264, which would be a resolution of 1280 by 720 at 24 frames. If we click on Match Sequence Settings, you'll notice that now changes to 800 by 450, which is how we want to save it. So we're saving it as a QuickTime. You do also have an option to save it as an FLV, but you would need an FLV player to be able to do that, or whatever file format that you prefer to save it as. But I'm actually in the sequence settings here, and make sure that I've got an output name and I know where it's going. So I'll call this Final Movie. Save that and export. Okay, now if I minimize the window and go back to my folder, here it's here, so just double click it to open it in QuickTime, and it should have the audio on my video sequence. And that's that.